When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind to Raw. It's John Pollock here alongside Wai Ting. Wai, happy Election Day.
Oh, thank you, John. Oh, by this point, I guess we have a new.
We have the same Prime Minister.
Yeah,
yes.
Is it official? I mean, at this point that we're recording, it's only been declared by several outlets, but not official just yet.
CBC is reporting that Justin Trudeau will hold a Liberal minority government with 157 seats reported that they have won. They needed 170 for a majority, so they didn't get that. The Conservatives are listed. Some of these might update a little bit overnight, but the Conservatives are listed with 121 seats, the Bloc Québécois 32, NDP 24, the Green Party 4, and the People's Party and the Independents splitting 0 seats.
Okay. Well, they get a medal.
Did you vote?
I voted last week, actually, early.
I did too. I went ahead.
Yeah.
I went last weekend. Voted ahead of time. I would have had no time today.
Well, yeah, it's just nice to get out of the crowds. Like my riding is actually, since I'm renting here, like I'm still registered at like a different location. So
right. So did you have to go travel?
A bit of traveling, yeah, out in Scarborough.
All right. So you and I are, well, if you were registered here, you would be in the same riding as me.
I think so. I'm not exactly sure where the borders are, but yeah, we do live.
We're very close. I don't think people realize how close Wai and I live to each other.
Yeah,
we're basically neighbors. I can yell from my window and Wai can hear me.
No, that is not true at all. But I might
do our next podcast like that.
Yelling through the window.
The CBC site is updating here in real time. The Conservatives are now up to 122 seats. So anyway, give or take some of these totals. But anyway,
you're not here for Canadian election results.
Let's watch the screen for the next 2 hours and see what kind of adjustments are made.
If you really want, sure.
Yeah, it'd be something else. How was your weekend?
My weekend was swell. It was swell.
Did you do anything?
Yeah.
Or you don't want to disclose?
Yeah. I did stuff. It was great.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the stuff was great. How was your weekend?
It was all right. It ended with Sunday, where as my warm-up for Bound for Glory, I saw Joker.
Oh, finally. Okay, so we can finally talk about it now.
Yes.
So, everybody. Spoiler or no?
I went by myself.
Wow.
It was a wonderful time.
Okay. Shall we discuss it at the end of the show, or how would you like to field this?
Let's chat about it at the end.
Okay.
I want to get into Raw and
Gotcha.
just get through this. I've had an extremely long day, so I'm going to preface this, everybody. I'm going to rely on Wai for certain opinions of tonight's Raw, because I have never been hit my wall during Raw as early as I did in this particular show tonight.
Oh, I got you, man. No worries.
It was a new record.
No worries.
So today I was going to DAZN had set up this media event with Big John McCarthy at a local gym here in town. So it was close enough that I wanted to go check this out, and did some interviews there, including with John McCarthy. So we'll have that on the site later this week. But I also came because he did like this mini 45-minute seminar on the history of MMA regulation and rules, and then opened it up to Q&A, which I think consisted of like many of my questions. And then I found it to be really enjoyable. But we had Robin Black was there, Corey Erdman was there. It's like a mini reunion, Wai.
Excellent. Wow. Cool. Did you learn a lot?
I did. I love hearing John McCarthy talk about the history of MMA, because this guy was one of the influential people that helped craft the unified rules of mixed martial arts. So Just covered a ton of different subjects, and then the ones I had left, I discussed in my interview with him. And then after the interview, we kept talking, and he was asking me about Cain Velasquez and stuff. So, yeah.
And you explain the unified rules of the WWE to Big John McCarthy, I'm sure.
Yes. I explained to him that the 12-6 elbows are perfectly welcome in Saudi Arabia or in Cleveland, Ohio.
Hell in a Cell matches can end in a no contest. Make sure you said that. If
you need an inhaler, you are more than welcome to. Did you hear about this story?
No.
On Friday, Greg Hardy was fighting this fighter named Ben Sosoli. And, I mean, Greg Hardy was winning this fight. It was going into the third round. And between rounds, Greg Hardy wanted to use his asthma inhaler. And he asked a commission inspector who said, "Is that allowed?" And Greg Hardy responded, "Well, it's approved by USADA. He's declared it." And the guy allowed him to use an asthma inhaler. The broadcasters, which included Dominic Cruz and Daniel Cormier, are losing their minds that a fighter is being allowed to use an asthma inhaler. He continues the fight, wins by decision, and then afterwards, the fight is changed to a no contest because this is a flagrant violation, although there is some confusion about if this is written in. This took place in Massachusetts. Anyway, it became a real confusing deal, and Greg Hardy is not a very sympathetic figure given his past, but he really did seem that he was more so the victim of someone that did not know the rules, and you could argue that Greg Hardy should have known the rules as well. His corner certainly should have.
Did the referee not see it?
The referee, I don't know what the referee has not spoken about it either. You would think he would be someone that would zero in on this as well. So I think there's a lot of blame to go around, but
sounds like
Greg Hardy loses a win as a result of this.
I mean, sounds
and
like
money.
Sounds like a wrestling angle. Like when the ref's
a bad one.
Yeah, when the ref's not looking, you puff your asthma inhaler, and then you somehow sneak by with the heel.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt pins the Seth Rollins. You think he's won the title, but it turns out when he went under the ring, he took a puff of an asthma inhaler, and the Fiend. It's the new Dusty finish where he then loses the title at TV because it's overturned. Maybe that's how they get out of the Falls Count Anywhere match at the end of the month.
Wow, interesting.
Anyway. It was quite the card. I finished SmackDown with you, and then I watched that main card on Friday, and it was quite the main card. There was this insane fight with Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens, and then Chris Weidman got knocked out in the first round by Dominic Reyes. Joe Lozon was fighting in Boston, his hometown, or just outside of his hometown, and it was just a mauling. This place went insane for him. It was like a really good main card. I enjoyed it a lot.
That's great.
That was my whole weekend, Way. Are you ready to chat a little bit about what is coming up this week on the site?
Yes, always.
All right. You can say no.
I'm sure. I'm ready this time, though. Next time I'll say no.
Well, Tuesday night, it's a big one. It is the return of Rewind Away. Michael King, our Espresso executive producer, has chosen the June 30th, 1997 edition of WCW Monday Nitro, where this will make no sense for anyone watching Raw tonight. We had the whole show building up to a reveal at the end of the show.
There's that.
Who would show up? Who would be the Impact player?
There's a big Ric Flair promo to start the show. Rey Mysterio.
Oh, is there ever?
Rey Mysterio cut an impassionate promo as well. So a lot of parallels. Chris Jericho.
There was not a whole lot of passion in 1997.
Well, Chris Jericho featured in a title match. Yeah, it's a whole new, different world.
Yes. So we're going to chat about that episode of Nitro as they're gearing up for Bash at the Beach that year. That'll be up Tuesday night for all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. Wednesday night, we have Rewind to Dynamite, and up next are 2 free offerings covering all of the Wednesday night festivities. Thursday, Cafe Hangout, live, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to make a lot of time for your phone calls this week. I know last week we had to race through a bunch of them. We're going to leave lots of time for phone calls on Thursday. And I have no concern in my mind that there will be a million things to talk about by Thursday.
Oh, for sure. A million. I also want to make mention, of course, on Rewind to Dynamite on Wednesday, we have our theme song contest at the end of the show. So if you're thinking about submitting an entry, you have, I would say, a little bit more than 24, maybe, 48 hours perhaps, before we close.
Less than that. We'll be doing the show in 48 hours.
You're right, yes. So less than that. So, a little bit more than 24 hours to submit your entries. And you can do that at forum.postwrestling.com in the contest thread.
A lot of entries.
Yeah, I haven't heard one yet. So there could be a diss track waiting for us, John. Somebody making fun of like, I don't know, my bow-leggedness. And I could be really hurt live on this podcast.
Okay, well, all entries welcome. We did go over some of the we won't call them rules, we'll call them suggestions about length. And remember, we have to listen to this every single week, as do the listeners. So it better be good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no,
right, so
even when it's bad, it's good.
That's true. We'll get some entertainment out of it on Wednesday. We'll go through all the entries Wednesday at the end of the show on Rewind to Dynamite. So tune into that. As I mentioned, I did interviews with John McCarthy, as well as our good friend Robin Black. So I'm going to have those up later on this week, because there's 2 Bellator events this weekend, including Rory McDonald versus Douglas Lima. It's the finals of the welterweight Grand Prix. Everything's on the line here, Way. It's the finals of the Grand Prix. McDonald's defending his welterweight title. $1 million goes to the winner, and there's hints that this could be Rory's last fight. That's one of the stories going into this. Will Rory call it a career after this fight? So high stakes for one fight on Saturday.
$1 million would be a great way to go out.
That would be my segue into my next career, potentially. Then we have on Friday, Rewind to SmackDown. That will be up for Cafe members late Friday night as we discuss the FS1 edition of SmackDown, featuring Hogan, Flair, Cain Velasquez, Brock Lesnar. I guess the SmackDown go-home show for Crown Jewel.
I mean, it'll be their biggest audience, so I would assume most of the good shit ahead of Crown Jewel to be on this thing. Sure.
And then this weekend, on Saturday, we will be unveiling our latest series, Thunderstruck, hosted by W.H. Park, where he is going to be going back and reviewing past matches from the career of Jushin Thunder Liger. And kicking things off, episode 1 this weekend will be the Jushin Liger Naoki Sano match from January of 1990, which was the match of the year that year in The Observer. And he will welcome Damon McDonald from the Super J-Cast to kick off this brand new series that will be airing weekly. We're going to drop it on Saturday this weekend, and then it's going to be a Sunday show on the schedule from there on out.
Yeah, very exciting. And this one has no limits. Like the G1 had what? You can only go so far, right? There have only been so many G1s. WH Park can go with this forever. He can review, by the end of this whole thing, every single Jushin Thunder Liger match. The same way Nate Milton will probably end up reviewing every single Dwayne Johnson film by the time he's done the Rocky Maivia picture show. I believe Nate actually did the calculation this weekend, and he would be reviewing Dwayne Johnson movies at this pace, 1 a month. If Dwayne Johnson stopped making movies at this moment, he would be reviewing all the way until 2022. So he's here for the long haul, everybody.
That is crazy. That's crazy.
Well, I don't think Dwayne Johnson's slowing down anytime soon. So
you're telling me that Nate just reviewed a 2009 film for Dwayne Johnson, and you're telling me that he's got at least 25 more movies?
Well, let me just double check this. I could be wrong.
That sounds astounding. That can't be right, is it? One review a month till 2022.
Yeah, 2022. That's what he said. And that's only counting his starring roles.
How has he done 25 movies in the last 10 years?
I mean, I don't know if you realize this, but have you heard of Planet 21?
No, I haven't.
Have you, or whatever, Planet 41, whatever it's called? Have you heard of...
I haven't heard of any planet involving Dwayne Johnson.
Have you heard of, what is this called? Race to Witch Mountain?
That's the one they just reviewed on the weekend.
Yeah, before that, did you hear about it?
No. What, is it a remake?
Well, it's...
sorry, you mean had I heard of this before they reviewed it? That one I had heard of, but had not seen. No.
Well, you certainly heard of The Tooth Fairy, which I would expect you to be guest starring on. That one comes out after Planet 51, so I look forward to that, John. You get ready. But this dude's done a lot of movies. Okay, he's a very in-demand
crazy.
actor, and I find it really interesting, like hearing about some of these films prior to Fast and the Furious, because they're all pretty bad.
Well, he found his niche,
Yeah, I'd say so.
and a lot of people love his movies. So, well, this is how we lock people in long term. WH could be doing this Liger show forever. I would love it if we're all seated together at New Year's Dash and Liger gets on the microphone, heartfelt speech, and then says, "I'm just kidding. I'm not going anywhere." And then WH can just keep going forever.
Forever. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, Liger is going to be 55 by the time he retires. That is not that old.
It's not. It's not. I would say it's a respectable age to go out, Like,
Very respectable age. But
can't really do better, I would say, in ring.
it's not like he looks completely out of place. Like,
Oh,
no one's
yeah.
comparing him to Will Ospreay. But
for sure.
he doesn't need to be Will Ospreay.
Oh, not at all. But I also think it would be really sad if, like, he continues to just come out and can't even do like the point where, like, you get to an age where you can't even walk, and you see people wrestling it, or maybe even, it would be really sad to see Liger attempt like a suicide dive over the top rope and nearly fall on his head until Moose caught him. That would be kind of sad. Or it would be really sad to see Liger, I don't know, just have a bad match, I would say.
Well, did you get to see any Bound for Glory over the weekend?
Yes, I did.
What did you think? Any overall thoughts on the show or any specific matches that stood out?
Yeah, I didn't see every single match, but I did see a majority of them, and the finishes to almost all of them. I felt like it was a show maybe lesser in quality than previous Impact pay-per-views. I also felt like the crowd didn't really sound as maybe lively as previous shows. But
No, I was expecting a rabid crowd there in Villa Park. I thought it was going to be a super hot crowd, and you really didn't get, at least on the broadcast, that I thought it affected Elgin and Marufuji a lot, or Marufugi.
Marufugi, yeah, that was a very good match. I was most interested in seeing the ladder match and seeing how Tessa Blanchard's storyline continued. I thought she did tremendous. It was a match that featured a lot of really kind of crazy, activity. But, even though, like, a lot of my interest going in was for Tessa Blanchard, I mean, obviously, I think most people coming out of it are talking about AC Romero and some of the crazy shit that he did as a 500, 400 pounder in a ladder match. It's not often like, I go into like a wrestling show and seeing something new, but I certainly saw something new in that match because I've never seen a 400-pound man take a bump off a ladder through a table on the floor before. So
I don't ever want to see something like that again. That to me was it was very concerning to watch.
Yeah.
He's very lucky that
certainly
he
limits
was not injured worse.
Yeah, for sure. I hope he's fine today. I hope they're all fine. And then, of course, I had a weird curiosity about seeing Ken Shamrock wrestle again. I thought his match with Moose was very ambitious. Maybe a little too ambitious, I think, for his own good. But there were things he did that looked perfectly fine. Like the Shamrock of old, like, the belly to bellies looked fine. Obviously, anytime he tried to attempt a submission, it was fine. But it was like the dives that I thought were a little unnecessary and didn't really look all that great. And of course, like some of those spots, like the ankle lock counter into the finish, basically, into the exposed turnbuckle, that just looked a mess. So I don't know, not the best performance really, I would say, for Ken Shamrock, but I think still has some ability in there.
Yeah. They really didn't. They mentioned it on the broadcast, but it wasn't like this was a giant commercial for moving to Access TV. Mm-hmm. I thought there would be maybe a bit more of a push for that they're going to Access. They said off the top that it's they're about to go into the Access TV era. It's not like it was not mentioned at all. I was just expecting more, that you'd come out of that, and that would be the natural follow up, is wanting to see this product, the flagship show next week when it premieres.
I would think that they would expect, if you enjoy TNA enough to pay for one of their pay-per-views, I would think that they would expect that audience to jump with them. But there might be a lot of people perhaps sampling the show through alternative means that maybe need that reminding too. Though I would still contend that if you're curious enough about Impact to like even seek out alternative means to watch the show, I would have to think that you'd be aware.
Are you going to be watching their show next week, or are you going to be returning in January for Impact Presents Hard to Kill?
I'll definitely check out that first show. You know, I'm always curious, like with all these debuts in October, I always want to see. You would expect like all these companies to present their best effort for a first showing, and I think I would expect that from Impact. So I'd be curious to see that. I'm actually more curious about their like one night only the TNA thing that they announced. Did you see that?
Oh, the TNA one night only show.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yes, they're going to. They're open to allowing any WWE talent to be on the show. That's really kind of them.
They want the return of Max and Jeremy Buck, and you know, that'll be interesting if that happens.
Well, we will see who they are able to attract for that one night only show.
Man, I would love a one night only return of Aces and Eights. You know, maybe AJ might want to like reunite with Claire Lynch. Like, so much good stuff they could do.
I wonder if they could get the Claire Lynch actress. She left there very not enamored with the world of professional wrestling.
Well, I mean,
or wrestling message boards, by the way.
That is true. Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's go to some other news. Eric Bischoff did his podcast today with Conrad Thompson and talked for the first time about his departure from WWE. And here is a part of the comment. I don't have to go through this whole thing. He was very complimentary to WWE. He was stating that, you know, he was honest about the fact that he did not expect this to be some 10-year job, but he was hoping that it was going to be, 2 to 3 years. And was definitely disappointed that it was shorter than it was, which you can expect, and added the fact that, he has nothing against Bruce Pritchard. He fully supports Bruce Pritchard, and
had dinner with him the weekend.
That's right. He had dinner with him he said at Bruce Pritchard's new home, and he's going to stay in Stamford until the end of November. Then he's going to Florida to spend time with his kids, with his wife, and then they will move back to Wyoming. So, there was no breaking news in all of this, more so just addressing the news from last week. But, I mean, what do you think is next for Eric Bischoff in professional wrestling? Or do you feel that the podcast will be it, that his days of being kind of a power player in wrestling, this might have been the last stop for him?
That's what I personally see. I really don't know if there's much of a role for him in companies that I think would be able to afford him, quite frankly. I doubt that he would work for an independent wrestling promotion just for the fun of it. He doesn't seem to me the type of guy with that type of passion for professional wrestling. I think he would go wherever, he could probably make a good paycheck. And I don't really see the people that are probably able to afford him to have a role for him that'll suit him. So I really don't see it other than what he's doing right now with the podcast.
Yeah, I could see him definitely, going back to, his television projects and that business that he was deeply involved with. In terms of a high level pro wrestling position, I don't know if the offers will be there. I
don't know if he wants it. Even
might not. This might have kind of been the exit door for him, and ultimately he'll be the one to have to answer this of how he assesses his performance during these 4 months, and does he at this age want to be heavily involved at this level, even if that offer were to come his way. And as I'm looking at the options, like I don't see him as a fit in AEW or Impact, and like what are your options that you're even looking for at this point that maybe this is kind of his swan song in terms of a higher level role within the pro wrestling hierarchy.
Perhaps, man. I thought he would have had his swan song years ago, and then all this happened. So who knows? Like, God, who
it's a great point. After the TNA run, I would not have expected him to have been. I think everyone was stunned back in June. So you can never the one thing you cannot discount with an Eric Bischoff, and I think this goes with Vince Russo as well, is that those are two people that they marketed themselves tremendously well when wrestling was perceived to be at its hottest in most people's lifetime. And there's always that desire from companies to go back to what worked before. And I think Eric Bischoff represents that era, even though, from the results we have over the past decade, they have not been favorable.
Yeah. So we shall see. But I it's too bad. Like, he didn't have a big enough run that we would even get an interesting podcast series coming out of this. Like, we might get an interesting episode, but I don't know if there's much of a series to be had.
Do you feel that there was any opportunity that Eric Bischoff could have been utilized in like a non-creative capacity, but someone on the screen where he is a very good performer? Or do you think that is just it would be a passe role or just would not fit right now?
I think it would be that. I agree. I think he's been good in that role, but it's just, I mean, people are already getting sick of, like, anytime you see a McMahon. I don't think retreading the same type of angle with the same type of people is really going to change people's opinions. It's, at this point, I think even diehard WWE fans are pretty sick of the trope.
Yeah,
as a manager, maybe, but is he going to move to Stanford to be a manager?
No, it's kind of, they just completely wanted to divest themselves of Eric Bischoff and not, dress this up as, it's not a demotion. It's just we're reassigning him to something else. But I do think Eric is a very good performer on screen. I agree, though, the general manager trope is very played out. But I'll also say that it's not like they have latched on to what the new hook is. And I think that was something that they miscalculated with the draft, was you didn't get that rivalry across. And having the two warring GMs, if you were to have Heyman and Bischoff, would represent that. But I think you have to get away from that. But the rivalry is not there. And I think that's something that has left, to me, both brands very flat coming out of this draft. Like, there just does not, this is 2 shows in a row where I just did not sense a whole lot of excitement to these shows, to anything. No. It just feels like we have half the stars on each show. And we're really seeing now with the split that there's not a whole lot of people that are over at the moment.
It's something we will continue to notice in the weeks ahead. But I really noticed on this particular episode of Raw that they are in a deliberate rebuilding phase. And I think you look who closed the show. Look who main evented this edition of Raw. It was the Street Profits. Look who got like 30 minutes of airtime. Like, it felt like it was like people like Humberto Carrillo and Sin Cara who never get that shine. But they have to rebuild because they don't have any stars on that roster. So they need to sacrifice some of these years when they have a pretty cush deal, without that much pressure on USA, that they can use to sacrifice to build new guys, to give them new exposure. And I think that's what you're starting to see.
Coming out of the weekend, there was several injuries, but the most serious is involving La Parka. This is the second La Parka as well. This is not to be confused with LA Park, but La Parka was involved in a 4-way match at Arena Coliseo for a Chaos show, and he was going to deliver a suicide dive onto Rush, and the clip has circulated, and you can see where he ends up crashing into the guardrail and is immediately out and was taken to the hospital. He underwent a procedure earlier this morning, and apparently he had been regaining feeling in his lower body and legs, but Super Luchas has been reporting that he was diagnosed with a neck and cervical fracture. So, there is certainly a lot of grave concern about La Parka coming out of this, and it goes beyond just whether he'll wrestle again. I think just looking at
life,
his overall health. Yes. That's kind of where we're at right now. And obviously a very, very concerning injury to La Parka from this dive.
Yeah. News can change at any time. So, like we all hope for the best. You never want to hear about anything like this when it comes to this industry. It's honestly a miracle. Like, we don't hear more stuff like this more often, and that people attempting moves like this usually get away from it without serious harm or injury. But it's a reminder just, how dangerous professional wrestling is.
And this was, a relatively like regular looking dive to the floor. And I'm looking at that Impact show, not just Ace Romero, that Ken Shamrock dive that, like, thank God Moose was able to protect him coming down. And it's just like the risk quotient is very high. And I wouldn't even put the La Parka one as a very risky one. It just, it was, just a set of circumstances that were very unfortunate, but it's uneasy. It's uneasy to watch when, there's a lot of times I think we watch things that are just like an inch different and it could have a drastically different outcome. And it's continuing to escalate that much higher of guys coming in and being ultra ambitious with what they want to perform.
Certainly.
The other injury to note was Xavier Woods on the WWE SmackDown tour in Australia. He was doing a tag match with Big E against a Revival, and as he was coming off the ropes, just went down and was favoring his left leg, and it was revealed later to be an Achilles tendon injury. The significance of the injury is unknown yet. If it's a full tear, if it's a partial tear, but he's off the remaining Australia shows on Tuesday and Wednesday. And if it's a full tear, that is a really significant injury. That's what Edge tore way back when he was teaming with Chris Jericho, and it's like that's a long road to recovery if it's a full tear. So hopefully it's less severe than feared. But that also went down on the Australia show, and just like the history of those injuries are just like it's just total fluke.
Oh man,
like it's just like he was just running the ropes. It was nothing you can really prevent. It just seems like it's your turn, and it's just bad luck.
It's never no injury is ever to be I guess no injury is good, but at least with somebody like Xavier Woods, he can talk so well that I wonder if, like, even with him not being able to wrestle, if he would still be able to play a very significant part to the New Day or just to the roster as a whole. I guess the question is, how much time would he have to spend in rehab? Would he be allowed to travel if it was a long-term injury?
Can you believe the travel for the SmackDown talent that are in Australia as we speak? That's a long enough flight. They've got to come back for this weekend. Like they finish up their tour Wednesday. They come back home. Then they pretty much are turning around next week to go to Saudi Arabia to do the show Thursday. And then the SmackDown crew is needed in Buffalo for the Friday night show.
I could believe it because I know they've done crazy loops like that before, but man, I don't. To me, like that's. You always hear like people who hate the schedule, and it's not so much for the amount of wrestling, but it's for the travel, being stuck in an airplane for all those hours. That really does a lot of damage to your body. So I hope they're getting first class or something.
Well, and that kind of dovetails into our next topic here, which is New Japan announcing a subsidiary in the U.S., New Japan Pro Wrestling in America. And they kind of outlined in a press conference their live event strategy next year, where they are looking to double their U.S. dates from 12 to 13 that they're running this year. So we're looking at 25, 26 shows next year. These are going to be dates that take place in between Japanese tours, although there's some where they may be concurrent with Japanese tours. But the idea is they are not eliminating any dates in Japan. They will be setting up an office in conjunction with the dojo and looking at various pockets of the U.S. to be running. And like this seems to be the unofficial break from Ring of Honor that everybody was looking for. Like this is their strategy, and they outlined this was phase 3 of their U.S. expansion plan. And it's essentially adding a bunch of live events. And we talk about the talent that are ultimately the money you earn is the travel that you have to endure. This sounds to me like a lot of guys that are going to be losing a lot of days off to fly across the world to do shows in the U.S. in front of 1,000 to 2,000 people.
Them opening up a head office here, I mean, would suggest that they might hire more though. maybe hire more or maybe bring their usual roster of like kind of American stars, but American stars that I guess since a lot of them have gone on to, work for AEW or elsewhere. So I personally, I wouldn't expect like all of these 20 something shows to be like full on New Japan shows. I just really, something tells me that that's not what they're doing, and that, you'll start to see maybe Okada on a certain show headlining, and then maybe you'll see Tanahashi headlining on another show. For the wrestlers' traveling sake, I kind of hope that that's the case, but of course, like, to break into like an already very competitive market, and I would suggest like maybe a move like this is even a couple years too late, when everybody already has such a fill of like NXT, AEW, everything else. Is there as big of a demand for live New Japan Pro Wrestling when it comes to your town? Yeah, I don't think so either.
There's a novelty to it, but it's like I believe like you hit it on the head that it's not going to be top to bottom dressed up New Japan shows with the talent. I think you're going to get similar to what we saw with the ROH shows, where you'll get a selection, you'll get some names, but of the big main event talent, maybe you're getting one of those, and the rest will be, you're going to fill it out with people that are based in the U.S., your U.S. talent, and mixing it in with some New Japan proper talent.
Now, how about this? What if they brought Stardom talent with them?
I don't see that happening right away. I think like they very much want these two to be distinct. At some point, if you're not drawing well, I don't know if Stardom necessarily would increase your business.
Right.
And ultimately, what your fan base wants to see, they want to see like a Royal Quest kind of show. I think that's what they want to go see when they get New Japan. I don't think they want a stripped down version outside of maybe one time a year. So I think that the Office building it, I think like that mentality, very much like when the UFC was expanding here to Canada, the idea of having a headquarters here, it tells this country that you are planting roots, that you want to expand. And I think that there is a long-term strategy to having a U.S. subsidiary. But just to run live events, it just seems like it's it's tough on the talent that are going to be doing a lot more traveling now. And it's for not these giant shows that they're not going to be, and they may go lower because you're just adding to already. I don't think you have this gigantic demand for New Japan more than once or twice a year in your market.
No, I mean, I think the Elite really were a big part of their American expansion, and that it's certainly a huge loss. So, you would expect them to maybe craft their own kind of American ace or ace to appeal to this demographic.
Could you see them being aggressive when it comes to ROH talent becoming available? That you have this incentive now to go after that talent, and we can perceive that there isn't much of a relationship any longer, and those are the kind of names you would want to go after for these kinds of expansion plans.
I guess it depends how respectful they need to be, but to me, it's like, get Dragon Lee, try to get Roosh. Who else would you say, like, you think it would fit in a New Japan setting? From
Brody King?
Yep. Yeah.
The thing is, like, you sign these people, it's like your roster right now is loaded in New Japan, and you sign these people, how many dates can you give them? And are you just crowding up your undercard to make more 8 and 10 man tags to fit all these people because they want to have regular tours as well? And we can see ROH, if they want to keep someone, they will offer good money as well. And
I'm disappointed because I'm reminded that we're very unlikely to see PCO in a New Japan ring at this point.
Oh, like PCO and Togi Makabe. Maybe Togi Makabe from a few years ago would have been.
I want to see Okada PCO.
Well, it's PCO will probably get one last really good deal here when his contract's up in December, and I would see ROH definitely wanting to retain him. So, this is a guy that's he has killed himself over this last year working with Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the news to get to tonight. You can follow along at postwrestling.com. Any updates to stories we will have coming for you. But Now we're going to move on to Raw from Monday night in Cleveland, Ohio. This was the former Quicken Loans Arena, the site of UFC 203 that we attended, Way. It is now called the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
That's a mouthful.
Hey, man, you want to go to the game tonight? We're going to go down to the old RMF, the Rocket Mortgage tonight. You want to go hit up the Rocket Mortgage? Yeah, man, the Fieldhouse. Let's do it. Rocket Mortgage for life.
There's absolutely zero accounting for taste when it comes to sponsorship and business, I suppose. Rocket Mortgage. Why is it a field house now instead of an arena?
Some places go with field house. Where the SmackDown was on Friday.
Is there an actual field in there?
Bankers Life Field House.
Yeah, but is there a field? Is there grass?
Not here in Cleveland. Like this is a basketball arena.
So what the fuck are they talking about? It's a wood house, if anything.
Well, maybe there's an indoor field somewhere hidden.
All right.
I'm trying. The show opened up and Vic Joseph welcomed us to a new era following the draft. And the new era kicked off with Ric Flair coming out to usher in the new era of Raw. He came out. He's all decked out. He says LeBron is gone. They need a champion, and all they've got is the Nature Boy. And then he said with the most proud delivery, we're going to Saudi to beat the hell out of Team Hogan.
Yeah. I guess to their credit, there was no vocal negative reaction to this, though I feel maybe more of a silence. Yeah, at that mention.
If you want to see someone dodge like no other, Ariel Helwani interviewed Paul Levesque today on his show and asked him about if any of the talent kind of have reservations about going to Saudi Arabia, and Hunter's answer was, No. We're not about the politics. We're about entertaining. We go, we entertain millions of people. That's all this is about. It's just about entertaining. That's it. Entertaining. He had to have said entertaining like 85 times in this answer.
It sounded like he might have been filling in for LeBron in Cleveland.
Oh, very astute. So Flair puts over Team Hogan as great wrestlers and great men, but they are not at the level of his team, and he's got the last hand to play. Tell your girlfriend that, buddy. I used to know your mother.
Amazing.
Dude, Ric Flair was having the time of his life on this show.
He was on fire here. Like, you compared this appearance to so many of the other ones he's had recently, and I guess I can't even really say that because we barely seen him talk on a live microphone recently, but you see this and you really wonder what all the fuss was about, what all the concern was about, because this man, at least on this night, was as sharp as ever. No rambling, just pure charisma.
Well, and his flub ended up being awesome later. We will get to that. He introduces the final member of his team, and it is another. He said he pretty much set him up as like he's another Ric Flair. Drew McIntyre coming out.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, yeah, this like. Did he say like something to the extent of like, oh, this guy's really popular with the ladies?
Dude, this guy basically said that like this guy runs through women like a hot knife through butter. Like he pretty much was just saying this guy can barely keep it in his pants. That was how he introduced Drew McIntyre.
The Scottish psychopath who can barely.
So now he's been endorsed by Vince McMahon and Ric Flair in two versions of this character. And
yeah.
Drew just cut a quick promo, and Ricochet came out to kick things off.
Yeah, the Scottish psychopath who can barely keep his dick in his pants.
Yep. Drew McIntyre has been social media dark since he's been off TV, so he's got a lot to get off his chest now.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. God, he hasn't
Ricochet?
tweeted in a month, guys. This is crazy. He's been out with all these women.
Yeah, you know, they say like, you know, like when a fighter is about to like fight, they have to abstain from like sex, from like, you know, junk food. Drew McIntyre abstains from social media. That's how he gets his fire for his matchups.
Oh my gosh.
He deletes his Twitter app.
I can't wait till we're old people way, and we've got like guys in their 70s telling us stories about this one time on Twitter. That's going to be the setup for a great story.
Sure, yeah. What is like the Twitter equivalent to somebody like Ric Flair? The bar, I guess.
I guess the hotel.
Yeah, or strip club maybe. Twitter, the strip club of our modern age.
So they had a really lengthy match here. Midway through, they go ringside, and Sarah Schreiber interviews Ric Flair during the match, and he just cuts this crazy promo on Hulk Hogan, and then says that Hogan, he's going to see him on SmackDown, and he goes to Sarah, "Where are we on Friday?" And he's like, "I don't know where we are. Cleveland."
He said, "That's tonight."
Yeah, that's tonight. Where are they, Friday? Kansas City. And listen, this felt, in another era, people would just look at this like this was a Sid gaffe or something. In this modern era, this was so refreshing to just hear someone that wasn't so painfully produced, that just, it's Ric Flair. And this was not, the world didn't fall apart because he just couldn't remember his damn city to plug. It was just so refreshing. Oh,
an imperfection like that made the whole thing feel that much more real. Like it was completely improvised and off the cuff and high energy. There was no need to save it because it was already perfect. And again, Flair to me tonight felt like he could really do no wrong.
If this had been on a taped show, they would have edited this out. And I thought this part was great.
Trying to think how they would edit this one. You cut away and then you hear like a voiceover.
Like, "Where are we? Cleveland, but woo!"
The AJ doing Flair's voice.
Fan shot. AJ. Yeah. AJ finishes the promo.
Yes.
So, they were they restrained themselves on commentary until about like 3/4 of the way into the match, and then they had to bring up the Spider-Man comparisons to Ricochet. And Lawler mentioned, well, Superman is from Cleveland. Ricochet.
What? No, he's not.
Well, that's what Lawler said here.
Like, is Smallville in Cleveland?
I have no idea.
No. Isn't he from Kansas?
You'd know better than me.
Well,
I was almost certain Lawler said Superman.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Are there any superheroes from Cleveland?
Not to my immediate knowledge, but
Stipe?
maybe if you consider that him a superhero, sure. The Miz. Okay.
Long list. Then Ricochet landed a quebrada, which Dio Madden said is proprioception.
What does that mean?
If you look it up, it is... I will absolutely butcher the definition of it, but thankfully Dio had the definition for us because he read it out, that proprioception is the sense that though which we perceive the position and movement of our body, including our sense of equilibrium and balance, senses that depend on the notion of force.
Huh?
I really don't understand.
Like a spider
Here's an
sense?
example. The way that we can tell that an arm is raised above our head, even when our eyes are closed, is an example of proprioception. Other examples may include your ability to sense the surface you are standing upon, even when you are not looking at the surface.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's feel over other senses.
Sure. Yeah, like a spidey sense is what maybe they're getting at. I sure, I get it. I would assume Ricochet has a pretty high level of that.
Well, then he took a border toss into the corner and a sit-out powerbomb, which definitely he felt the proprioception that probably registered on his pain threshold. He kicked out of the sit-out powerbomb. Then there's a quick DVD and a shooting star press off the top. Big reaction for that kick out. He goes to the 630, rolls through, recoil gets blocked. He's dumped to the floor, and then Drew sets up, hits the Claymore, where he pins him at 17 minutes and 42 seconds. Lengthy match to kick off Raw.
How long again?
17:42.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this ended at the bottom of the hour, so like the first half hour was between Flair and then this match. I mean, and I thought it was actually a really good match to start the show off, but not really met with like great reactions. I would say because I think of the lack of star power. You know, despite the fact that they've showcased Ricochet so much, this is not a crowd that I think recognized him enough as a star to warrant a 20-minute matchup. But I thought this whole show, they made a very clear effort to try to give long matches to these performers who, otherwise don't really have much of a way to shine. And that includes Ricochet, to a lesser extent, Drew McIntyre. I thought both of them did really well. I wish, though, with Flair being this good, that they would have gone to Flair a bit more, maybe even put him on commentary, because I think he would have certainly added to, especially some of the
my enjoyment. It would have been something.
But honestly, some of the slower parts of this match, where I think again it's great to have like great in ring, but I think you need personality to keep people's interest. And Flair, of course, would fulfill that quota very well. So at least they went to him once.
God, we're talking about flights. Think of like Flair having to do that flight to Saudi Arabia, and even more so Hogan with that guy's back in the shape it's in. That's a long flight.
Well, they're making a lot of money for that long flight, so I'm sure they'll be okay.
Oh. Drew attacks him afterwards, double arm DDT, and then takes him and hits him with an inverted Alabama slam onto the steps, and then celebrates with Flair. And then Drew starts doing the Hogan mannerisms in the ring, cupping his ear, and then he yells, "Superheroes aren't real, but I sure as hell am."
Yeah. Yeah.
We got the line in, even though Ricochet couldn't deliver it.
Like, who are they catering towards with this superhero thing? Like, everybody I know thinks it's corny as hell. So is it like the 50+ crowd? Is it the children that are identifying with this guy who believes in like superheroes?
They promoted that later tonight, Rusev will be on the King's Court with Jerry Lawler. And then they showed Cardale Jones of the DC Defenders. And no, these are not people that are defending the choice of Robert Pattinson as Batman. These are the different DC Defenders.
Very good.
Did you like that one?
I
was worried in my head if I crossed over anything there. The DC Defenders of the XFL. I think we're going to get a lot of these over the next few months. Guys who just happen to be in the front row at these major WWE shows. Yeah,
they gave the XFL dude the same equal billing as the entire Cleveland Browns.
The OC were interviewed. They went over the Street Profits attack last week. They're rookies. They haven't earned their keep. And they should not have been given this worldwide platform as the hosts of Raw when we have charismatic individuals like us. And then AJ said that getting that smoke is illegal here in Cleveland. And then Gallows said that Cleveland sucks.
Yeah, he said Cleveland doesn't rock, it sucks.
Yeah, this was not the audition for them to be the hosts of Raw.
Maybe that was the point, like for them to appear like three really corny, like older men to contrast against like the coolness of the Street Profits. In that sense, they were very successful.
Then they had this video about guys that made an instant impact last week, and they just showed highlights of Andrade, Buddy Murphy, and Aleister Black. And I think that, you brought it up, that you can certainly see with this show that they are not looking for just 1 week, snap our fingers. Like, they have their concerted younger talent that they're trying to get over, and they're trying to get a number of them over. It's not, they're not just isolating one guy either.
Yes. I mean, somebody like Buddy Murphy, Andrade, of course, and Aleister Black, all three. I love the fact that with this video package, they kept it to only 3. Because I think we saw like earlier in the year remember like the initial set of like NXT call-ups with like EC3, Lacey.
It was like 6. It was like 6 different acts that were all coming up at the same time.
By the time the videos were done, like, you don't even remember the first one. So the fact that they only kept it to 3 is a positive, and it shows you who kind of they Paul Heyman wants to push. Did you also like the fact that Dio Madden comes back from this video calling them My raw dogs.
Yes, I heard that. I thought they'd leave that line for Lashley later.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Next up, Aleister Black. I'd like to think that there is a, reason to my madness. I'd like to think that one day all this strive will provide me with an answer as to why. But at the same time, this sight of me provides with me this hell like fire, like rage, and it is beyond redemption and clawing at me as we speak, like a man dancing in the moonlight. And boy, is it ready to pick a fight.
You know, I don't even pay attention to these anymore. I just wait for you to tell me what he said, because I think you do it way better than he does.
Wait, I write these out every week. I have no idea what any of this means, nor how this could be the original thought of somebody that gets these words onto a paper.
Can you do me a favor and just put it on a notepad and screen cap it and then tweet it out to the world? I think the world deserves to see these promos in writing.
Maybe I should go back, because I save all my reports. Maybe I should put them all together and put it out as like a mini novel at the end of the year.
Oh, like a poetry book.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you would get sued for that, but I think WWE should do it.
Who is going to take me to court to claim ownership of this?
Aleister Black. Okay. Paul Heyman, maybe. Whoever wrote it. He cut this one with no shirt. That was pretty special.
Oh, it was symbolic.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
He's bearing his soul.
Yeah.
Aleister Black took on the Jason Reynolds. It was just Black having a showcase here, attacking him with kicks, spinning elbow, flying knee, black mass in 1:45.
I mean, really simple jobber match, and I think again, you know, it's good that they're investing this amount of airtime for Aleister Black. Clearly, he's being treated as a big deal, and I feel like I've said those exact same sentences like 6 months ago when they did this initially. So my hope is that we get a program relatively soon, because this is already their second time doing the jobber thing with him.
Then the AOP have taken over the room. They were signed to Raw. There is no team hard enough to fight them. We are violent men in a violent world and are going to get very violent on Raw. The next chapter will be written in blood and written by the authors of pain. I guarantee it will not be written in blood in this era.
Probably not. No.
But maybe some lacerations.
Yeah.
Or some heavy bruising.
Yeah. I'm ready for these guys to get out of that dark room as well. Get into the ring. But, you know, this was good. Like, I think the first week after the draft, you need to remind everybody who these guys are.
After they went undrafted.
Is that right? Oh, man.
They were not drafted, and then they were listed, and then they were just signed.
I guess somehow they weren't... Were they on SmackDown or Raw? They were Raw, right?
SmackDown. They had moved to SmackDown last year, I think.
Oh, God. Well, whatever.
What a run. King's Court. Jerry Lawler brings out Rusev. Lawler says what happens in a marriage should stay there, but they're all public figures, and it has been salacious what Lana and Lashley have revealed.
Lawler is saying that?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Rusev stops the fans from chanting what, saying, "He's a Hall of Famer," which was a funny line, and it did stop the chants.
Yes. Yes, it did. It worked.
Rusev blames Bob Lashley, who has poisoned Lana's brain, and Lashley will be crushed. And he says, "I may be a fool, but I still wear my wedding band, because every day I hope and pray that we will pass through this and live happily ever after."
We also learned of some of Lana's complaints that Jerry tells us. Rusev's been sending too much money to his parents in Bulgaria. He's been getting in the way of her modeling career. And he's been getting in the way of her spending.
So that has been the foundation of this fracturing of the marriage.
Yeah.
Lashley appears on the screen with Lana at a restaurant, and Lana says she has needs, and Bobby takes care of them. It was Lana's dream to go to this restaurant, and Rusev never took her here. But Lashley did. You know what would have been a hell of a response by Rusev? We don't fucking live in Cleveland. They live in Nashville.
You're right, yeah. Well, they've been to Cleveland many times, though.
Working. When do you have the night off to go to a restaurant when you're here in town on tour?
Rusev and Lana lately? I mean, they've been barely on TV, so I'm sure they had plenty of free time.
Yeah, well,
just like last
Rusev could have easily said, in my free time, you think this is the city I would be choosing?
That would be a good... That'd be a terrible comeback for a babyface, but would be truthful.
Lashley then says,
it wouldn't even be open in Cleveland that late. Everything closes there at like 7 or something.
That's right. Remember that night we tried to go get dinner afterwards? Yeah. Whole city shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find a place. Lashley says, out with the old, in with the new. And the video cuts out. Rusev says, I'm going to go deliver the message in person because I know where they are. And he runs to the back as Dio says, a man can only take so much. This is the breaking point. He's watched them pretty much have sex, but now they're having dinner.
Specifically at this moment, though, they were eating like some type of like dessert. It really just looked like a plate of whipped cream that they were eating.
It was.
And I was like, they're already having dessert. By the time Rusev leaves the arena, they're probably going to be gone. But it turns out maybe they started with dessert because they ended up at this restaurant for like the next 2 hours. So
maybe it was the appetizer.
A whipped cream appetizer?
It's a fancy restaurant. Rusev wouldn't understand.
Is that fancy to serve whipped cream as an appetizer? I don't know about that. Maybe it's creme fraiche. That thing.
I mean, it's also 9 at night by the time this is happening. So,
well, late dinner. You know, like, I can watch this and I can get really upset, or I can just embrace the ridiculousness and be fully on board.
This segment wasn't even ridiculous, though. It's just...
Oh, come on. On a wrestling show, it's pretty damn ridiculous. What
compared to their other angles that they've done, this was the most tame.
Fine. But, like, Lana wiping whipped cream off of Lashley's face, like, that to me should have no place on a professional wrestling show. But you know what? It's Raw. It's WWE. It's good shit. I'm jumping on, you know? It's like... Think about the fondness you might have had, John, in hindsight, for like a choppy or pee-pee, or like Katie Vick. I'm watching with those same goggles at this point. Just give in.
Well, we had to follow that with Andrade and Zelina Vega coming out. Zelina explained that Andrade's music is a siren to warn his opponents that their careers are in danger, and said, "Do you even know what Sin Cara means? It means without a face." So I guess she was also accurately describing their main event mix right now. Oh! And he will also be without a victory tonight. And that set up a monumental match because we were about to get a 2-segment Sin Cara match.
Again, unprecedented. But I don't blame them for trying. They're giving a spotlight to people who don't typically have it. I mean, would this be my first choice? That's debatable, whether or not Sin Cara is that person on the list, but I thought it was a clear attempt at something new.
So before the match, they explained that Sin Cara lives in El Paso, Texas, and he was part of the first team responders after the Walmart shooting in August that killed 22 people, and then they showed this in-ring segment at a recent show in El Paso with Sin Cara and other first responders to the shooting.
That's really cool. I'm really glad they made the time to present that on TV, because I think, I mean, something like that will make somebody more identifiable than, I would say, you know, backstage promo, for instance. And it feels like it's been years since we've seen anything for Sin Cara above being, enhancement talent. So here they really kind of put that particular event over and gave him a lengthy match.
Jerry Lawler was just blown away by what Sin Cara means in English because he kept bringing this up. Vega would distract whenever Sin Cara had the advantage. Andrade did the Three Amigos and continued with the Eddie mannerisms as he climbed to the top and got stopped. There was a springboard into a powerbomb off the turnbuckle by Sin Cara, and then Andrade recovers, double knees, and there's a pescado into a Hurricane Rana on the floor by Sin Cara, but then Vega distracts. Andrade snaps him on the top rope, and Vega hits her Rana off the apron, and that leads to the Hammerlock DDT finish with Andrade getting the victory.
I like this match too. I thought Sin Cara, to me, like, he took this rare spotlight, and I thought he made the most of it. He delivered some really impressive looking offense. But, of course, I think a lot of the criticism will be just how long this was, given the lack of a feud and the lack of star power. So I understand maybe the mentality of like letting guys like this get on this stage to really to have a great match to showcase what they can do. But I definitely feel like they could have done more to set it up, to tell us maybe who Sin Cara was in the week prior, or to just give us something a bit more, give the fans a bit more of a reason to stay tuned for 20 whole minutes.
Charlie was with Humberto Carrillo, who says he has a lot of respect for Sin Cara, and he says that when you go against Andrade, you're taking on Andrade and Zelina Vega. He believes he'll be a future Universal Champion, and he knows that he'll be a great champion, and he won't be the kind of Universal Champion that plays with fire like Seth Rollins.
Okay, you did not do that promo justice because you delivered it with way more aptitude and charisma than this person did. So, man, this poor guy, like, clearly he was very nervous about doing this. Clearly not somebody who's maybe had a ton of experience speaking in front of a camera, cutting English promos. But God, to have to, like, on top of talking on live TV in English, reading these lines, nobody could have done it. I mean, unless you're Ric Flair, I guess, on this show. But God,
this is who Flair should be with.
Flair and Humberto Carrillo? Okay, maybe, sure.
Like look at this guy. This guy is like this young. This is the Mexican Ric Flair right here.
I'm not so sure about that. I'm not as convinced yet, but maybe okay. I'm glad everybody's getting a chance, but to me this dialogue sounded extra unnatural coming out of Humberto Carrillo, who really does not have. It was
very tough verbiage, and I think Humberto Carrillo, he clearly like has a great look, and I think he has something that will connect with people.
Sure,
but this was yes.
This would have
will not be the kind of champion that plays with fire like Seth Rollins.
Again,
how about this?
You sound good, John, actually, when you say it. At least a lot better than how this came across. But
well, all weekend they're promoting that Seth Rollins is going to address why he burned down the Firefly Funhouse. And tonight, he didn't address any of it.
No, he just said, like,
sometimes you've got to make hard decisions, and that's what I did. That was pretty much his justification for it when he confronted Carrillo later.
Yeah. As if, like, though, I'm just trying to think of the logic of, like, Humberto Carrillo's words, because, like, he went from talking about, like, Andrade being a future world champion to, I'm going to be a future world champion too, but not one who plays with fire.
Ooh.
What kind of, like, as if, like,
the best line was later when Dio Madden called Seth Rollins an arsonist, and immediately he's getting like pushback from the other commentators. Like, that felt to me like they do not want to introduce that notion that Seth Rollins is an arsonist. It was the best.
Okay. Anyway,
dude, this angle's doing a number on Rollins. He felt so flat on this show.
Oh, I'm surprised they're still going along with it. But anyway,
just like, man, there's gonna be no baby faces left. So, yes, don't play with fire. The Street Profits responded to the OC's promo. They made fun of AJ's hair. They're putting up 90 symbols in the air with the Wolfpack sign. And mothers love them more, and they're main eventing Raw tonight. And when asked who their third partner would be, they teased Flair, Booker T, and Kurt Angle, but said it would be none of them, and it's someone that doesn't like the OC. That was our hint of who would be the third partner in this ultra confusing match later tonight.
Yeah. Setting up a bit of a tease. But that wasn't the main event here.
R-Truth is hiding? Is that what you were alluding to?
Yes.
R-Truth is hiding on... What was he on? He was on a...
He was just hiding behind, like, a crate or something. Yeah.
He ends up getting rolled up by Samir Singh. Sorry, he runs into Samir Singh, and then he gets rolled up by Sunil, who wins the title, and R-Truth is confused and thinks he's seen double.
Yes. Yeah, well, congratulations to Sunil Singh, first WWE championship.
Is this the first Canadian 24/7 champion?
No, Jinder's won.
Did Jinder win it?
At the airport, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Why do I even remember that?
Please do not ask me for the lineage. I could not tell you.
I'm sure there've been like 10 like Canadian champions by this point.
Did you see his promo for Jagmeet Singh last week?
I did not. Did not bother. Was it good?
Dude, it was like he was kind of wrestling promo. It was actually, I thought, like, pretty ridiculous.
It'd make me not want to vote for Jagmeet Singh.
He was just talking about, the everyone is equal and Jagmeet Singh is representing all of us, but he was doing it with like his Jinder Mahal, I'm cutting a wrestling promo delivery. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a strange mix.
I mean, in the end, they're all cutting promos.
That's what a political campaign is about.
Yeah.
Hawkins and Ryder are with Sarah Schreiber, who says, some say you are underdogs, and they are grateful for this opportunity. Kurt Hawkins said a huge amount of times, and then I wonder if we'll have pyro tonight. They walked out. Spoiler, they didn't, and they took on the Viking Raiders.
I don't know if they've ever... Yeah, pyro.
The idea is they are underneath geeks.
Yes.
That's literally the job description.
Yeah.
They got a bit of an advantage on Eric. Ivar got the tag, seated senton out of the corner. Eric scoop slammed Ivar on top of Hawkins. Ryder made the save, and then they murdered Hawkins with a Viking experience in 342.
This was a short match, and I thought a very entertaining one. To me, I actually thought this was a perfect length and enough, to give a bit of a fight to the challengers, but not too much to make the champs look weak. I found it thoroughly entertaining. Ivar continues to just really be a standout on the show, period. He's a great fit for this like Vince McMahon WWE style. The team together, just always brings great intensity. Only thing I think that's really lacking for them right now are promos and storylines. It's not just enough to have good matches, which, they're not even really having great matches yet, but I certainly think it's time for more character, more a bit more to get behind than just the in-ring.
Lashley and Lana in the restaurant, and one of the owners of the restaurant, presumably, comes over. He heard that Lana's husband might be showing up. I guess they've got Raw on in the back, and they are asking them, we will cover your meal. Can you please respectfully leave? Lashley is not concerned about Rusev showing up, and after the break, Rusev barges into the restaurant and gets into a brawl with Lashley as Lana is screaming for Rusev to be taken to jail.
Yeah.
I thought we'd get a segment of Rusev in jail, which I thought might be entertaining, but we did not see him. It's going to take him a week to get to jail?
He's going to be in jail for a week, maybe.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Lock him up.
Yeah. Maybe he'll suddenly reappear in a jail in a different city. Maybe
He's got no family, and Lana would be the only one to post bail, and she declined, so he's got to stay there for a week.
He's out of money, right? So yeah. Maybe it'll go to trial.
Perhaps he'll stay in jail, and then Lashley is going to post bail so he can get his hands on him at Crown Jewel.
That would be quite the leap. Huh. Okay. Is that the match, you think? You think that's happening at Crown Jewel?
Well, no, they're on the teams, right? They're on Flair and Hogan's teams.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. Okay. This was pretty anticlimactic, I have to say.
Yeah, when they do like their on location shoots.
Yeah, what's the twist?
There was no like big crescendo to this, other than like they did the brawl, but it felt like it was requiring a follow up later in the night.
We didn't even get a food fight.
No, we just got horrified looks on people's faces.
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio, a man who in 2019 is after Best on Interviews of the year, comes out in his sling, and he's been training Cain Velasquez, and he just wants to thank all the people for the outpouring of love that they have displayed for Dominic and for my family. As a man, that has meant so much, and I am so thankful and humbled by it, and that is why you are my family. It's like, this is like the only babyface they've got going right now. Mm-hmm. It's like, how can they screw this up? Is he going to turn on Dominic? Is he going to turn on Cain? Like, how will they mess this up? Are babyfaces this hard to program?
I would say
Rey
yes.
is just killing it. I think Rey's great.
I don't know. I mean, I would say they are more difficult than creating heels. Because you need people that the audience respects. And, you don't really get more respected than somebody like Rey Mysterio. And it really helps that he can talk now, too.
He said, we're all going to celebrate together at Crown Jewel when Cain wins the title and puts another scar on that bastard Brock Lesnar. And then just the cherry on top of the promo, he said, and family, be easy on Marco. He's a great talent. Great promo from Rey. This was awesome. This was among my favorite things on this show.
Yes, for sure. He's been excellent.
Great. Paul Heyman appears on the screen and starts speaking in Spanish to start things off. He says Rey knows that Brock has been drafted to SmackDown, and God knows we cannot violate these the church and state differentiation here. But Heyman cannot be drafted anywhere. Huh? Why? They just introduced these things without any... Why? Well, Sami Zayn able to go back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Maybe, because he's a writer.
They've never said that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he negotiated for himself that he can't be drafted to one particular show, I guess.
Well, maybe you should be a writer.
No.
You just explain the story to me. He goes over Lesnar's history with Cain Velasquez and says that it won't be a celebration for Cain because for 9 years, does this sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Brock Lesnar has looked in the mirror every morning and looked at that scar, and he has been salivating like a beast lusting for revenge, and that revenge comes on October 31st. Rey is serving Cain on a silver platter like dinner to his beast.
Awesome.
Trick or treat, bitch.
Awesome. Great
This was a great promo.
Yeah.
And then Rey cuts him off, and he yells back in Spanish. Don't know what he said, but I am all for guys talking in their native language because it sounds great.
Pretty sure he just told Paul to tell Brock that Cain's going to kick his ass. Something to that effect.
He said, motherfucker, I'm going to Saudi Arabia dressed as the devil because you're going to hell.
Ooh.
Shelton Benjamin walks out and says Rey can't defend himself or his son. That's why he got Cain to do it. And he's upset that Cain Velasquez got a title shot. And Shelton says, well, my buddy is Brock Lesnar. And goes over their whole history. It took them. Shelton Benjamin has been in this system off and on since 2001. They finally allowed this guy to do this promo in 2019 that he trained and roomed with Brock Lesnar at the University of Minnesota. Brock is my family. And aside from Heyman, no one knows him better than me. and asks what'll happen if I push you around. And he starts bullying Rey, and he pushes him. He said, am I going to get a title shot for that? Huh? Is this going to get me a U.S. title shot? Is this going to get me an IC title shot? Shelton, I don't know what the hell happened to this Shelton Benjamin, but all of a sudden, he was like this awesome prick bully in this segment. This guy who, God bless this guy's talents. Promos have never been one of them. And then Cain's music hits, which we'll get to that. But what did you think of Shelton Benjamin here? I was very surprised by this performance from Shelton Benjamin.
I thought it was awesome. And I think maybe shows you that he might have had this within him for a while now, because he seemed incredibly comfortable doing it. He played like a really great heel, bullying a smaller man, to the point where like I found myself wanting Rey to like slap him back. So him as like a heater for Brock, they tried it before, but like it was like a one-off. I think it's a great role for him because Brock's never around, and Shelton needs something, and I think this is that something if they can keep this up.
So Cain Velasquez comes out to his new music, which, boy, just everyone running to download this theme. He goes to shoot Shelton tries to go shoot a single, and Cain blocks him. And he goes for this high crotch, drops Benjamin, and starts attacking him with ground and pound.
Please.
I don't know if there was much pound, but I think some people's expectations did hit the ground here. There is something there is a large disconnect between a guy with a entire career of striking technique versus having to do worked striking technique. And
oh yeah, we saw it with Tyson Fury, and this week we saw it with Cain.
Ooh. It's like these guys are like obviously clear, like these guys could obviously do significant damage here and are being ultra careful in their new surroundings, but this did not come off well. He slammed Shelton down again and then applied this rear naked choke before tossing Benjamin to the floor. I thought the Cain physicality here, you do not want to draw comparisons to Shane McMahon as a former 2-time heavyweight champion. And that's what some people were doing here with Cain.
So is that what the criticism is of Shane McMahon now? Like the guy is such a great legitimate striker.
He's so realistic because he could do, this guy's a walking weapon. He's got to pull his punches.
Oh, no wonder
he could kill a man.
Yeah, no wonder they look terrible. There's certainly a real art to making a punch look like it hurts, but not having it hurt. And Cain has a long way to go, I feel, to at least from this point to get it to a convincing level. Yeah, this was, people will overlook it, and I think the match, like in the match, Brock, I think will actually take some of those punches. Brock will be like, lay it on me, like that. But Shelton,
this is not the style Cain has been training. I'm sure he is now, but like this is a very different form of pro wrestling that he's being asked to do. And tonight was certainly not, compare this to what you saw at Triple Mania or the Hulu Theater show.
But I think that's their secret weapon. They don't want to pull out him doing the Ranas and all that. They want to set people's expectations up to think that you're going to get an MMA fighter in there. And then once he pulls off like the Ranas, it'll be like what they wanted the reaction to be for Brock doing like a shooting star press. I think it'll be that type of thing.
I think that's the kind of thing you bring out for the rematch down the road. I don't think you're going to see that in this first match. Just the way this one's being built. And it's almost like the story that Cain is coming into this as a fighter that hasn't learned anything.
I suppose I don't know when he's going to be doing a rematch with Brock. I'm not really banking on that being immediate, but he's also been training with Rey Mysterio, and if you're training with Rey Mysterio in storyline, well, what's Rey going to teach you? Certainly not how to punch or do a rear naked choke. It's going to be doing a Rana. Maybe he'll even pull out a 619.
Well, he is new to all of this, but if this is how his striking looks at Crown Jewel, you and I will be forced to name him Cain McMahon.
Oh God. Wow.
Maybe that's going to be his advocate down the road. Shane and Cain.
Shane and Kane. And then
Shane and Kane equals pain. The new tag team.
You may be throwing Sami Zayn in there as well. And Kane. The other Kane.
And Killian Dane.
Ooh, a whole stable.
Oh, wow. Man, I could do this all night. All right, but that would be driving you Kyrie sane.
Oh, God.
Okay, moving on
Too
for
much.
real. I know, one more. The Cleveland Browns were shown in the front row. This one dude dressed up as Scott Steiner without the shirt was just awesome.
Yeah, something. Sure.
Oh, you didn't...
Was it awesome? I don't know if it was awesome.
I thought it was funny.
My God.
It was funny. A guy without a shirt in the front row who's like making millions of dollars in the Cleveland Browns. I think that's kind of funny.
Hilarious.
Riyadh season's begun, and The Undertaker got sent over to Riyadh to stand on a float. So at the same time that we had the WWE float on Total Divas last week for the Pride Parade, The Undertaker was off on this float in Saudi Arabia.
Sorry, my printer just decided to clean itself right now. I don't know if you can hear that.
What? I don't even own a printer, so I can't relate. And I didn't know they cleaned themselves, especially without human instruction.
They've got a self-cleaning function, and I'm assuming the mic not even pick up, but hear that?
That's okay. It just sounds like you're in a workspace. It's ambience. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Man, this giant float, Riyadh, this was not like, come to Riyadh, it's great here. Not like what we saw in the first Saudi Arabia show, but I definitely see them like releasing the shackles on that and slowly.
Oh, this Riyadh season is going to be, I think you're going to get tons of promotion of that on this show. Like, it seems like WWE is directly, they're one of the major events they're presenting. I think we're going to be much more closer to infomercial Crown Jewel than the last two.
Yes.
I think they honestly believe like we've escaped the controversy and people are the majority are just accepting of what this is now. We're just here to entertain. That's all we are. We're here to entertain. We do these shows for free if we could. And
are they wrong? Because I've certainly not heard any criticism, or at least, not really any at all. Like, they've been more upfront than they have in a long time with doing these press conferences. Everything with Tyson Fury and Kane.
I think it's more indicative of where people kind of slot WWE in terms of is this the company we're looking to be making ethical and responsible choices? Because I think what the NBA is going through right now, granted that's not Saudi Arabia, it's China. They are catching a lot of flack for that, and more directly to Saudi Arabia. I've seen much more criticism of the Anthony Joshua fight coming up in December, that they're going to Saudi Arabia for that. But WWE, like, I'm seeing nothing. So, I mean, for them, it's like they're doing these shows regardless. If there was an outcry, they're still doing these shows. After they went last year, right after the Khashoggi murder, that to me was like, we have crossed the Rubicon, and whatever we endured during that period, we got through, and we were fine after. And I feel they are invincible now in terms of what they believe, what public perception is. It will be fleeting, and they'll move on.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can't really have your public reputation be any worse. I guess you can, but no, never mind.
Then we had Seth Rollins, Humberto Carrillo. Did we pass that promo? Oh, we did.
We did. Yeah.
I totally skipped over it. I'm sorry. Charlie was with Seth Rollins, who says maybe the Fiend has gotten inside his head, but maybe I'm in his head after last week. The Fiend is different. Once you step into the ring, you will change forever. And then he says, just a sec, Charlie. And he wanders off to Humberto, who's just standing around. You know what, Humberto? I did burn down the Firefly Funhouse. It's not something I wanted to do, but it's something I needed to do. It's what being a champion is about. Making choices that are not popular, but are right. If I have to ever isolate a sentence, that was the before and after mark of Seth Rollins as a top babyface, this sentence might have been it. You know what I did? You know, I did burn down the Firefly Funhouse. It's not something I wanted to do, but needed to do.
The story is that like Seth Rollins is having to like dig into like the dark side of his psyche to do things like this. You know,
This is his Kishin Liger.
I get, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure,
Against,
I guess so.
Minoru Wyatt.
Yeah, I just it's just
Will he go to the darkness?
It's such a wide gulf of like how much cooler one is than the other. But yeah, like Seth now has had to dig into his evil side to to stop the match with Bray Wyatt and Hell in a Cell, and then the week after that he burnt down the dude's shack. But it's just not something that I think the audience is really connecting with, because they don't really look at these acts as evil as they are just lame. So I just don't think, at least, you know, for me, it's really not having the intended effect.
Are we to believe now that the Fiend is not human? Like, we have not even gotten an update about this guy whose perceived home was lit on fire with him inside of it. I mean, he was off SmackDown. We got no update on this guy. Nothing that, like, he's
I think
subhuman.
we've established that the Firefly Funhouse is a set backstage at WWE Raw, because it's not like Seth
which
Rollins.
is going there. After burning it down, they promoted a Firefly Funhouse segment for SmackDown on Friday.
Well, you could rebuild sets, I guess. Not that.
So what did Seth accomplish?
Well, a lot of
he burnt down a set.
Yeah, a bit of a cost to the art department. Maybe more work for the art department. Some cleanup. Pretty inconvenient, I bet.
I don't see how this inconveniences Bray, though. It's like, that's okay. Build me a new set.
I guess. Well, maybe he really liked that one.
This was a special one.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a special blue.
So he then offers a chance for Carrillo to take him on tonight on Raw. Non-title, of course. So that's our match here. And Madden says that Carrillo called Rollins an arsonist. And this is where they said he never said arsonist. That's Randy Orton. The crowd starts chanting for Bray Wyatt. Tremendous. Vic Joseph then says, in reference to Bray Wyatt, he is literally living in the mind of Seth Rollins.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that works.
Literally. Carrillo hit a reverse cross, then got tossed into the barricade, vertical suplex for the commercial, hit this twisting splash to the floor, and, you know, Carrillo was doing a lot here, just not a whole lot of reaction. It was so clear to see what the goal of this match was and to showcase Carrillo. I just didn't think they really had the crowd for it.
Certainly, you know, again, I found it really interesting maybe seeing something like this versus seeing, you know, like a Marco Stunt match or a Darby Allin match on AEW. I think it's a match like this, and a lot of the matches on this show suffered from a crowd that would rather see stars face off against each other than somebody try to build another star. Unlike, you know, maybe an NXT or AEW crowd who I think would be more willing to give in-ring quality a chance. But I think even in AEW or NXT, you know, certain people have a deal of a bit of a portion of airtime before they are presented in front of a live TV crowd with 20 minutes. And I don't think they really achieved that with any of the guys here. So it's a start, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a long road. You're not just, like, they have really struggled to get people over, and now they're trying, and it's not going to happen in 1 week. And you do need that patience factor. Mm-hmm. Carrillo got a couple of kickouts here, and then he got caught with a buckle bomb, super kick, but he got away from the stomp, rolled him up for a 2 count, and then hit the Aztec press, which was the most impressive looking thing in this match. Rollins kicks out, then he goes for another Aztec press, but Rollins gets his feet up, super kick, stomp, and pins Carrillo in 12 minutes, but you had Rollins endorsing him afterwards by shaking hands with Carrillo.
I thought Carrillo looked really solid. I don't know if he did enough for me to impress here, because I thought I felt like I felt like he felt like, like a dozen of other cruiserweights that they have under contract. To me, there's nothing all that special, and certainly nothing special on the microphone, where I think he's a long ways from being ready. But clearly, like, Heyman sees a whole lot in him. WWE must see a whole lot in him. I question, judging by an appearance like this, whether or not he's the best choice for this role.
I'm pretty high on this guy. Like, he had some great matches in that breakout tournament on NXT. I think he's got a great look, super youthful look that, they need younger guys. I just don't think that this match got to the level that you were hoping it would be. Like, this would be, taking the champion to his limit before falling at the end. Very similar to the Jericho Darby Allin dynamic last week. So R-Truth is then backstage with a referee and tries to sneak up and rolls up Samir, but he's rolled up the wrong guy. And there he realizes there's two of them.
Yeah.
And they left with the 24/7 title. So Sunil remains champion.
Mm-hmm.
The Street Profits come out. This was an awesome entrance where they came through the crowd. These guys felt really popular on this show, and I can't say that about too many different people.
Well, I think it's the difference between somebody making a Raw debut after one backstage skit versus months of build-up here. And I think you clearly saw the difference in reaction to, like, the Street Profits coming out, where I think they've actually done a really good job building anticipation by, letting the crowd be attached to their characters first. It makes this first match on Raw feel like a special occasion, at least to me watching at home. And I think their entrance works really well in front of a big crowd.
I thought this entrance was great. These guys are just loaded with charisma coming out.
Looked
crowd
way
gets
better,
into it.
Looked way better than a Full Sail entrance of the same sort.
Yeah. I thought the entrance was great. It really set the scene for these two. The OC are out next, and AJ cuts a promo asking who the partner is. Is he invisible? Is he imaginary? Or could you not find anyone? And they replayed from the attack from last week. We go to break, and then we come back, and the match begins. And after all this build-up, it's a tag match, and AJ is not in the match.
Yeah, why did they do that?
This was perplexing. I didn't realize this until 3/4 into the match when I realized AJ's on the floor. Why do they even need a third partner?
Yeah, like, why even set up the mystery at all?
This was the way it was set up last week. It was built up all show long that this was a 6-man, and then we do a tag match. I just did not understand.
Sure, in their, like, logic, there's some reason why this happened, but it certainly would, I think left viewers a little bit confused.
Montez Ford got tossed to the floor by Anderson, and Gallows connected with a running boot. And Jerry Lawler said that when the OC were kids, their social network was called Outside. They went through a break. Heat on Ford for a long time. He was eventually able to tag Dawkins in, and this is when Styles shoved Ford off the top into a spinebuster for a 2 count, and the referee is warning AJ and then ejects AJ when Kevin Owens' music plays, and Kevin Owens is the third man. He comes out, he attacks AJ with a stunner, Ford hits a tope con hero, and then Dawkins hits a spinebuster to Anderson. Ford, with the frog splash, pins Anderson, and the Street Profits leave, celebrating throughout the crowd, including with a young baby.
Great closing shot of Montez Ford holding a baby to close the show. It was a very strong, first win for the Street Profits. But, unfortunately, I would say by this point, the crowd was clearly quite skeptical and not necessarily that reactive to everything that this crowd was doing. But the footage, and I think just overall the presence of them being in a main event on Raw, entering into the crowd to celebrate, that was a net positive overall for these guys. And that's kind of how I felt about this entire edition of Raw. It was more of an investment, than something that would be reminiscent of just a star-studded edition of Raw.
Yeah. I wouldn't call this a great episode of Raw, but it ended strong with the Street Profits. I thought that was good, but I could not help but think, and maybe I will be proven wrong, I felt really bad for Kevin Owens. It just feels like this guy.
Why?
I feel this is going so backwards for him. To go back with AJ, I'm not dying to see this feud again.
Oh God, I didn't
over the U.S. title.
I didn't even think of that.
I just felt this was, he gets to a point and this just feels like he's getting. He's just pulled back. Granted, this show beyond Rollins, and who knows, that role might be up. They desperately need a babyface.
The difference with AJ and Owens is that their roles are switched now, though.
AJ's the heel. Kevin is the babyface.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just see Owens feuding for the U.S. title. It's a title that really means very little. We'll see what they do with him. They didn't have, Shane's off TV, so it's not like you could continue that.
It's also not like, he could feud with Rollins right now at a world title level, right? They're both baby faces.
Right.
So maybe this is just kind of a temporary thing. I thought this Raw was like a real statement about rebuilding from the ground up. I thought they made real effort to try to give new talents a lot of time to showcase themselves in long matches. They have sort of the cushion to do it right now with this guaranteed 5-year deal. So maybe if you stay this course, hopefully by year 3, you might have some big stars on your hands. But
are you telling me it's 3 years away that I have to go through these 3-hour shows?
Listen, it's not going to happen.
The dividend gets paid.
Look at who they have on this roster, especially now that you split them up. Like, who are your biggest stars? You got Randy Orton, who I don't know how active he's going to be like in the next several years. He doesn't even have his contract's due also. Becky Lynch, was she in like Australia or something? Was there a reason why her and Charlotte weren't on this show?
Yeah, she was on the Australia tour. It was still the old SmackDown roster that was in Australia.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because they had the visas all set up to go there. So the people
Becky
that were.
But Becky's not SmackDown before.
I guess she was on that tour. Right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
She was Raw. But anyway.
But okay, you couldn't use her. You couldn't use Charlotte. I'm assuming, and
Charlotte's in Australia as well. Yeah.
Right. And who else really is there? Like that's Seth.
No, they don't have a lot of stars right now. Even with those women. I mean, that enhances things. But it's on both shows right now. Like you have split them in half, and there's not that many people that are over right now, and that's. You are going to have patience with some of these talents to get over, and patience has not been a virtue of this company for a long time.
Yeah, that's the big question is if Vince watches a show like this and he'll panic and just all of a sudden end the brand split again, another wild card. And I certainly hope not, because I'm curious to see what Heyman can do if they stay the course, what he can do with a guy like Ricochet or Humberto Carrillo or the Street Profits. Certainly it's like, to me, the brand split has already kind of had its effects when you see somebody like Shelton Benjamin be given this amount of airtime and do a really good job. Even like Ryder and Hawkins getting some time to talk and wrestle, I think is a positive as well.
All right. Should we do some feedback?
Yes, let's.
All right. Why don't you start things off?
All right. Let's go to this. First of all, what did you guys think of this edition of Raw? I could see a lot of people hating this one, but let's see what you thought. 4.58.
Oof.
Paul from New Jersey says, I'm sure much can be said about Ric Flair, but the guy can still cut a killer promo. So natural, so fun. Glad to see performers like Andrade and McIntyre being showcased. Both gentlemen possess the necessary skills to be world champions. This certainly seems like the show that is making an effort to push new and different talent, so I found this show to be a step up from what we've been getting lately. Every time Aleister Black cuts a dark room promo, I can look extra forward to Rewind to Raw. Was hoping to see the Iconics, but it appears many of the women on the Raw side are in Australia. Shelton wins most logical performer of the night. And what did you gentlemen think of the commentary tonight?
Dio Madden is, I don't know, he's, I think, trying to find his voice still.
He's been more of a presence this week, maybe getting more comfortable to speak up than he was in the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
I certainly see potential, I feel like he would be able to connect with the audience, especially a younger audience, in a way that your other commentators can. But it's going to take time for him to find that unique comfort, I would say.
All right, let's go on over here. By the way, Becky is not on the SmackDown tour, so I was mistaken.
Okay, well, I wonder why she wasn't there.
Yeah, very strange that I don't know what the deal was. If she was, we'll try and find out. But anyway, she was not on the SmackDown show today in Australia. So we continue and go to Nick from Atlanta. WWE programming is something I throw on in the background while I pay attention to something else, and even that's rare. Tonight's show is exactly meant for that. Throw it on while you do anything else and glance over to see if you're missing anything. Spoiler, you didn't. This product is an inconsistent mess. I wish I could understand some of the decisions they make. Why turn both Sasha and Bayley heel and then put them both on SmackDown so the top two women on that show are both heels? And then Alexa Bliss is a face? I guess. No real turn there or any story to show why Becky or why Bayley or Alexa changed. Rollins seemed like a heel, but like Roman, I'm sure they will fight it. Why did Seth burn down the Firefly Funhouse only to bring it back the next week? What was the point? Why did the Kabuki Warriors turn? Do they blame the fans like Bayley? If the WWE can't care enough to give me a consistent story explaining anything that happens, then why should I care?
Right. I mean, with Bayley, there is a story. It just might be kind of, I don't know, a bit tough to follow when you're maybe not looking. Yeah, I can't really agree with like what he's saying about Sasha and Bayley, especially because like they are already friends. So just because they switch brands, why would they suddenly have one of them turn? If you're going to have either of them turn, I think it would come after establishing that they are friends, and then maybe you have one or the other turn in the weeks ahead, not immediately. And the Kabuki Warriors have no explanation there.
They have not given you anything for that.
Yeah. We got a Jeff from St. Louis who says, turn Seth already. Saudi Arabia seems like an amazing place if you don't care about women's rights, homosexual rights, or journalists who speak against the crown. I guess with the NBA China fiasco, WWE and the Saudis are making their move. Street Profits could be the future, but who has faith that they will get booked right? Hopefully, they won't be jobbing out in 6 months. Finally, the Raw Tag Team division could actually mean something shortly. The Profits, Raiders, and AOP are legit teams. Let's hope they get a chance.
Brandon from Oshawa, why did top pick Andrade have to cheat and barely beat undrafted Sin Cara? Why is Aleister Black not just immediately ending that job guy with a black mass in 5 seconds? Goes on to say, wasn't the main event supposed to be 3 versus 3? Where the hell was Kevin Owens all that time? And why did it randomly become a tag match? Shelton Benjamin and Ric Flair were the best part of this show.
I think coming like out of this show, nobody really remembers, at least I don't, who was drafted in what order. Like, I don't know. I think a big deal is probably made out of it. That, like, do you remember who was actually drafted 5th versus who was undrafted and drafted on the weekend? None of it matters. And like, all that matters is how they get pushed afterwards. So if you're telling me if coming out of this show, Sin Cara like is a top push star, well, that's who I'm going to focus on as a fan. You know, I mean,
it's maybe good and bad that no one remembers the draft this week, like 1 week removed from it. I mean, I think it should have lasting impact, and that's a story in and of itself of how you the drafting order could have been a story, but I think everyone has just moved on from the draft. I don't think it was all that memorable in how it was presented or how people digested it.
I also think, to Brandon's point, like, I think they want to have long enough of a match to like showcase what somebody can do. And, maybe as much sense as it would make up like Aleister Black just like killing a guy in 5 seconds. It doesn't keep him on TV all that long. I
have no problem with what they're doing with him right now. It's like he is not someone that I'm too concerned about.
All right, we go to Guy from Charlotte. This show was, in a word, predictable. More Lana Rusev cuckolding, which is predictable. Another awkward Aleister Black promo, which was also predictable. Another awful AOP promo. A Raw guy feuding with the SmackDown champion and the Raw champion feuding with the SmackDown star. Also predictable. To be fair to them, like, this is, I feel like I'm defending them a lot, but I also feel like I think they should be defended for a point like that. This is like leading to Crown Jewel, right? And it's a show that was created before the brand split, and those are all Crown Jewel programs. Now you can definitely criticize like the timing of the draft, but they were booked for Riyadh or Saudi Arabia for that date, and they were booked to have their new TV deal kicking at about this time. So I give him some slack for that.
Now let me ask you this: why has Cain Velasquez not been drafted?
Special signing? We don't even know what brand he's on.
Wow.
Maybe that's a special edition of the show.
All right. He should be sought after, shouldn't he? What if he wins the title?
I'm sure he is.
Can he go rogue? Can he just go to AEW with the title?
You listen, like your criticism perhaps is that they haven't explained it, and maybe you're right. It is worth, if they cared about, I think, creating that like believable infrastructure of this being a real sport, they should throw a comment out there.
If he wins the title, where does he go? I think that's a logical storyline hole that I imagine will go into Crown Jewel not having an answer to.
Maybe he's got the same deal as like AOP, where he just like signed with a specific brand off screen.
Yeah, so until then, he can appear on both shows, I guess. As he will this week, which Brock cannot. Brock can't go on Raw, we established tonight.
Yes.
Tyler writes, I'm glad to see some different faces getting their chances on Raw, like Carrillo and even Shelton Benjamin. Cain looked awkward and nervous once he entered the ring. Street Profits' debut was a success to me in week 1, but I wonder if Owens and Styles can possibly have a worse feud than they did in 2017. 5 out of 10.
Noah from Vaughn asks, how did Bray rebuild his funhouse so quickly? Did he get money from the insurance company? Wasn't that angle last week meant to end the funhouse? Was it meant to end the funhouse on Fox? Clearly not, if they did it.
No, it's back this Friday, so it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was done. Mind games. Mind games, everyone. Brandon from Ohio, I got home late from work and was just about to start the show when I checked Twitter. Saw so much negativity. I generally enjoy things. I just decided to get a late start on King of Pro Wrestling. Looks like it's a 2-sitting show. Maybe I'll finish on Friday. Okay, so you didn't watch anything of Raw, but thank you for your feedback, Brandon. It's greatly appreciated on the Raw review show.
We go to Brian from Sacramento. I'm a first-time poster, long-time listener. I've been a fan since I was a small child. I'm 45. Today's WWE product is just so hard to watch. I decided to put Raw on in the background while I cook dinner. My only knowledge of what's going on lately is from your reviews. I tried to get engaged, but it wasn't interesting at all. Now, AEW on the other...
Sorry, I heard that the wrong way. Sounds like you
tried to get engaged,
tried to get married, but it's not interesting.
My marriage was really boring. By the way, I tried to watch Raw. Now, AEW, he continues. Now, AEW, on the other hand, can't miss TV, in my opinion. My coworker, who is 26, and his buddy, who is 28, just started watching Dynamite, not knowing what AEW was before turning in for the first time. I found out after episode 3. Neither one was a fan of wrestling in any way previously, and they love AEW. I asked them what they thought about WWE, and they said they thought it was a kid's show. Feels like the beginning of the Attitude Era all over again. Keep up the good work, guys.
All right, let's do one last one here from B Detroit. What up, Doe? I walked in the house around 9 p.m., so I rewound the recording and ended up skipping through most of the beginning of Raw, and for a second, I thought about watching all the promos, but I would much rather listen to John deliver all the wonderful lines WWE had to offer us tonight. Overall, a meh show with matches that would have been better if they had a lot shorter time. 5 out of 10 fake restaurant brawls.
That was worth it to hear you say, what up, though?
That's what you get if you listen this late into the podcast. So thank you, everybody, for your feedback to Raw, whether you watch the show or not, and you just want to send us random thoughts. We appreciate it. Wednesday, we'll be back. Rewind to Dynamite with our theme song contest. We will crown our new theme that will be embedded into your ears for eternity on Wednesday nights. But before that, Post Wrestling Cafe members, Rewind Away will be out Tuesday night, June 30th, 1997 episode of WCW Monday Nitro. We'll see if their reveal can top Raw's reveal on Monday.
But we shall see. We shall see.
Kevin Owens certainly wasn't dressed as the mystery man at the end of Nitro. What a suit. All right. All of that is coming out this week, so you can go check out postwrestling.com, postwrestlingcafe.com, and that's it. Goodbye.